Independence Day, or is it India's Dependence Day? Not independent, but dependent. And so much has been indicated by Arjun Ji and by Dr. Nehru that we really have not received the independence. Instead, we are gulami chal rahi hai. We are dependent. Yet conflict in India has increased. We are more divided today than we were even during the British Raj. The conflict, as you know, is among different nationalities, language groups, caste groups, and certainly among religious groups nowadays. There's more corruption in India. They say the amount of money that has been looted out of India, there's all kind of data on that. There's more money our own politicians have looted out of India than all the British 200-year or 250-year rule put together. There's also more violence in India. I grew up in a rural community, small rural village community, and for centuries together it was a peaceful community. But now there is more conflict and violent kind of a conflict there is in India, largely on account of the election. They want to win the election, so voting blocks are there, and on account of that. So independence has really become dependence. Today, it's not only an Independence Day celebration, but some of you perhaps know it is also Shri Aurobindo's birthday. Not many people know about that. But it's also Shri Aurobindo's birthday. And Aurobindo, of course, is the great yogi, There's Shri Aurobindo Ashram in Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu, although Pondicherry is a state by itself. But he was a yogi. And I think the title of Rishi can very easily be associated with Shri Aurobindo. His literature is huge, 35, 36 volumes. He wrote both in English. He grew up in England, not knowing any of the Indian languages from age 7 onwards. And when he came back to India at age 21 or 22, he didn't know anything, any of the Indian languages. He taught himself Sanskrit. He even studied Tamil. And he saw some connection between Tamil and Sanskrit. He thought, that's right. He thought, the two languages are not separate. It's not Dravidian versus Aryan, but there's a connection going much further back between Tamil and Sanskrit. So he has done a lot of work, and I will pronounce to Shri Aurobindo because he has done so much. Now the list of people who have sacrificed for India is really a long, long list. Sometimes we think that Hindus are weak. Well, of course, we are divided. There's no doubt about that. People accuse Hinduism of casteism. They say Hindus are superstitious. I also read that Hindus are weak because they're vegetarian. I think you probably have heard of it. Hindus are because vegetarian. In fact, when I was in school, in India, I read Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography, Story of My Life in Truth. And he had a stanza there. He experimented eating meat. Mahatma Gandhi did. Later on, of course, he was a pakka vegetarian. But he heard this couplet. He says, look at the Englishman brave. He rules the Indian small. Look at the Englishman brave. He rules the Indian small because being a meat eater, he is 5 cubits tall. So, Gandhi heard that and he started eating meat. Of course, he didn't agree with him. I think you probably know that story. But this quotation is also in Jewelry book, which is being distributed outside on the dais, and Dr. Rao tells that that book can be acquired by people. So the question is, so much has been said about what's happening in India. Our temples are being looted. Dr. Subramanian Swami tells us that 4.5 lakh, 450,000 Hindu temples are being looted by the government of India. And Kashmir problem has been beautifully laid out by Dr. Nehru. So the problems are, just really humongous. And I don't need to repeat that because so much has already been said about that, although I had quite a bit of material here indicating how Hindus are second-class citizens within India itself. India is more dependent today. Hinduism is under greater attack today than it was even during the British period. So the question is, how come? How come the state of affairs? So I have a little bit of information on that. If I can, this is another freedom fighter, by the way. Veer Savarkar. And of course, many of our leaders, they went to jail. But Veer Savarkar, who is the founder, president, and really the founder of the Hindu Mahasabha in India, is Veer Savarkar. He spent 13 years in Andaman Islands. He was exiled from India. I mean, he served more in jail under very strict conditions than Gandhi and Nehru and some of the other leaders whom we worship combined together. He was 13 years in jail. And he is the person, Veer Savarkar is the person who wrote Hindutva, the book that he wrote in 1921. In jail he wrote that. So we need to pay respect to him. But unfortunately, our own BJP government, what I have read that our Modi ji, although I respect him and revere him, is better than others, he gave a lecture recently only about a month ago, and he mentioned 3 different great leaders that BJP derives inspiration from. And among those 3, he didn't mention Savarkar. He mentioned Mahatma Gandhi, which is all right. He mentioned Madan Lal, which is also all right. And the third person he mentioned was Deen Dayal Upadhyay, who, well, most of people, I hadn't heard of very much about Deen Dayal Upadhyay. He's also a BJP person, which is okay. But he didn't mention Hegdewar, he didn't mention Golwalkar, he certainly did not mention Veer Savarkar. And he is the founder of Hindu Mahasabha and the Hindu movement in India. So we really need to, and he suffered a lot. He came out and we need to pay respect to him. These are, I made a list of India's freedom fighters. We have a great lineage. Sometimes we feel that we are weak. We don't fight, we don't stand for ourselves. But this is from Google, and this is only a partial list. People to fight for independence in India, hundreds and thousands of them went to jail. Many more, millions perhaps, marched in the streets. So Hindus have a great history. Let's not sell ourselves. All this, Madan Lal Goel, and I don't want to spend as much time. You can see that. And this is only a partial list. So the question is that I want to address is, why are Hindus so weak? Why are we a second class minority, even though we constitute about 80% of the population? One reason for that is India's fractured electorate. Now this is some of the data from the 2014 election which was recently held. There were 8,250 candidates for 543 seats, right? That comes to about 15 candidates competing for each single seat, all right? And so often one wins by only 25 to 30% of the vote. The winner gets no more than 25, 30% of the vote. So what do you think will be the implication of that? It's not very hard to see what the implication of this kind of election system is, with there are 15 people, candidates running, and the winner needs only 25, 30% of the vote. Well, the implication is that an entrenched minority, 15, 20% entrenched minority, often has the say. So, and Muslims are unified. They constitute a bloc vote. In many constituencies, they constitute about 15 to 20% of the vote. So whichever direction the Muslim vote will go, often they are the ones who will decide the election because what I have shown over here. Now, an example of that, illustration of that, would be what happened in Delhi elections earlier in 2015 in March. The Muslims used to vote for Congress party and block, because their mullahs and their qazis, they said, no, this time we're going to vote for the Aam Aadmi Party, Kejriwal. And block, this is how they vote. They vote by block. It's an entrenched voting block. Hindus are divided, Muslims are unified. whichever direction Muslims would vote, you know, they are the ones who will decide. So you know what happened in Delhi elections. I think 67 out of 70 seats in the Delhi government went to the AAP party, Aam Aadmi party. And this pattern, you know, I'm afraid is going to be repeated again and again unless we do something. And what I'm going to be concluding my lecture on it, that we really need to change this constitution. And there's no deliverance for India unless we throw this baby out. You know, all of the talk that we do here is not going to produce results until or unless we bring a fundamental change in the present constitution of India. And it's not going to be an easy battle. It's not going to be, it's a 50-year-long battle. Just as the independence movement was a 50-year-long battle from about 1900 to 1947. Just as Maharaj Shivaji, who defeated the Mughal armies, you know, the Mughals disappeared after Aurangzeb, but it was a 50-year-long struggle that Shivaji and the Marathas undertook, and the Marathas were, you know, they were controlling most of India after the Mughal Empire disintegrated. I think you know that. Again, it was a 50-year struggle. So that's what I'm looking toward. That's going to be a long, big struggle. But we have written before, you know, as I indicated, so many freedom fighters. You know, we have fought this battle before, and we can fight that battle again. But of course, it's not without sacrifice. Emotional sacrifice, financial sacrifice, and also physical sacrifice. Okay, this is just a partial list of the Indian political parties. I don't need to spend time on that. You know, just a huge list of political. And this is a partial. This is a partial list. There's so many different political parties in India. You know, like I say, 15 candidates on the average for parliamentary constituency. So our electorate is divided. Okay, now here, this is another thing which you may not be familiar, and this is the India's voting rate is inverted. The way people vote in India is opposite to the way people vote in the United States, in any European country, in England. And I want to demonstrate that by 2 or 3 different graphs over here. This is for the United States, you know, this particular graph. And this graph shows you the relationship of education and income by voter turnout. In other words, what percentage of the people vote by their degree of education, by their degree of income. It's a very simple graph. You'll see in the United States, the red line is for education. Okay? You'll see as education increases, voting rate increases. You know, more people vote, higher the education they have. It's just very simple. And the difference is quite remarkable. The people who have the least amount of education, you know, they vote less than 40%. And people who have more than college education, they vote more than 80%. So, you know, there's really a very large gap here. And in the United States, the same pattern holds true in England and in most countries in the world. All right? Well, it's the same relationship about income, as you can see that. You know, higher the income, you know, higher the voting turnout. And you know, just a very clear relationship between education, income, and voting. Now look at the pattern in India. This is the pattern in India. If you look at, again, look at the red line, which is education. Yes, voting rate does increase slightly from illiterate to primary school education. But higher the education, lower the voting rate. And the gap is very remarkable. If you look at the top of that line with primary education or some small literacy, you know, nearly 80%. See that red line? And the college educated postgraduate, they vote only about 40%. So 40% gap, you know, and who are the better educated? Well, I don't think you need a whole lot of information besides that. You know, Hindus usually are better educated, right? And same relationship is with income, as you can see. You know, higher the income, lower the voting rate. So something is to be done. Now, there are some countries in the world where voting is compulsory. for example, Australia is one country. There are about 20 countries in the world where voting is compulsory. And in Australia, if you don't vote, there's a fine. There's a financial fine. But I don't think you could implement anything like that in India. Who would pay the fine? And who would collect the fine? So India does not have solution to compulsory voting. That we can make voting compulsory, and if you don't vote, there will be a fine imposed on you. So that's not the solution. Of course, in the U.S., as you know, we live here in the U.S. Voting in this country is regarded as part of your civic duty. Every candidate, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat or independent, they always emphasize the value of voting. We could have some program like that in India that encourage people that they need to vote. But it's a long, educating people is a long kind of a process. It's not going to happen. Now this is by religion. This is also very interesting. Look at this data here. This is based on voting race. Hindu lower caste 58%. Okay, Hindu upper caste 60%. Muslim voting rate is higher, 10% higher, 70%. All right. Scheduled caste is 75%. The Sikh voting rate, interestingly, in my state, I'm from Punjab, and there are Sikhs over there. They're very active. They're politically unified. They're politically more savvy than the Hindus are. 89% of votes. And the average, all in the average voting is 62%. By the way, that's quite respectable. So in this country, the voting rate, average voting is only about 60%. So total voting rate in India is quite respectable. But again, our community, Hindus, are less likely to vote than almost any other group in the country. And something needs to be, said for that. Okay. Now I was saying that we ought not to sell Hindus short. Of course, there are divisions in Hinduism. So much has been said on that already. The caste and religious divide and all that. But we have done these battles before, and we can do some of those battles again. In fact, India is in the civilizational war in the world. Rome has disappeared and Egypt has disappeared as a civilization. Egypt is still there. Egypt as a civilization, it doesn't exist anymore. Rome exists, but Rome as a civilization doesn't exist anymore. But India still continues, as you keep on hearing. Hinduism is still alive. We still have about, 800 million people in the world. So there is some internal, inherent strength among Hinduism. We just need to, bring it back. There is this famous Tarana, Hindi Tarana, written by Iqbal. Many of you, I imagine, can understand Hindi. Yanan Misra Roma is a very, very popularly stated couplet. Yanan Misra Roma, sab mit gaye jahan se, ab tak magar hai baki, namo nishan hamara. Yanan is Greece. Yanan Misra Roma, sab mit gaye jahan se, ab tak magar hai baki, namo nishan hamara. कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जहां हमारा. For centuries together, people have opposed us, they have been in enmity. And there is some strength. कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी. We still continue. We still are a major civilization in the world. Recently this theme has become quite, how much time? 10 minutes. And the clash of civilizations, you heard of that. It's a very popular topic now, clash of civilizations. Professor Samuel Huntington of Harvard is the one who kind of popularized that. And he identifies about 6, sometimes 7 major civilizations in the world. And those are the Western civilization, and in the Islamic civilization, in the Chinese civilization. And interestingly, he's using the word Hindu civilization. I'm black, sometimes I say Indian civilization, but he's using the word Hindu civilization. And Japanese civilization. So about six. You know, sometimes they add the African also. 6 civilizations. And you know, Hinduism has continued and has survived, even though we have been colonized by the Muslims from 1000 AD, more or less 1000 AD, and then the British for about 300 years, 200 years. So we still continue. And let me recite another couple of couplets. There is Altaf Hussain Hali, H-A-L-I, who's a Muslim Indian scholar in the 19th century. And he has written a very famous book called Musaddas. Musaddas means 6-line stanza. And he is almost revered in Pakistan. His books are prescribed in madrasa, in Pakistani madrasa. And he also lamented, okay, India is one place where Islam did not fully succeed. You know, Islam has succeeded everywhere, but in India it has failed. So I'm trying to indicate that we do have some inherent strength. We simply need to bring it up. And he says, this is Hali. Hali is, this is in Urdu, but nonetheless you can perhaps understand. I can translate it. वो दीने हिजाजी का बेबाक बेड़ा, वो दीने हिजाजी का बेबाक बेड़ा, निशान जिसका अक्साए आलम में पहुंचा, निशान जिसका अक्साए आलम में पहुंचा, ना ओमान में झटका, ना कुलजन में झिझका, किया पार जिसने सातों समुंदर, वो डूबा बहने में गंगा के आकर। किए पार जिसने सातों समंदर, this Bebak, fearless Beda, Beda is fleet, of Hijaz. Hijaz is Makkah and Medina, that's another name for the Hijaz. ये Bebak Beda of Hijaz, Chala, किए पार जिसने सातों समंदर, you know, 7 seas they cross, they conquer everything. But वो डूबा दहने में गंगा के आकर, गंगा के आकर वो डूब गया. So, you know, that's true. You know, Muslims, they conquered. You know, Persia was a Zoroastrian country, as you know, 100%. They conquered. You know, it's Islamic now. Afghanistan, you know, was Buddhist and Hindu. And all the Central Asia, Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan has Bukhara. Bukhara is really a word from Bihar. Even Samarkand. Samarkand is a Sanskrit word, means Samarkand. You know, the land of struggle. So even Central Asia was part, you know, part of our culture. And many of these lands, you know, have disappeared. Another couplet is from Iqbal. Iqbal is sometimes regarded as the founder of Pakistan, which he was. But he also wrote a poem called Shikwa. Shikwa means complaint, complaint to God. Okay, and he says again, he says, "Tujhko मालूम है देता था कोई नाम तेरा, कवते बाज़ Muslim ने किया काम तेरा." It's a complaint to God, to Allah. Muslims are suffering, Muslims are nowhere, Hindus are on the top, you know, what is going on? We served you, we fought for you. And the last line ये है, कहर तो ये है कि काफर को मिले हीरो हूर. कहर तो ये है कि काफिर को मिले हूरी हूर और बेचारे मुसलमान को फक्त वादाए हूर. In the translation of that, he says, things are so bad, kafir, you know, Hindus are bad, they are enjoying huris, you know. कहर तो ये है कि काफिर को मिले हुरी हूर, उनको हुरियाँ मिलती हैं, और बेचारे मुसलमान को फक्त वादाए हूर. They only have a promise of वादाए हूर, that, you know, you die, you become a martyr, you become Hindus are enjoying huris, and Muslims only have a promise of it. So even he was, you know, very, that Islam was not doing well, Hindus are stronger, they have taken to education, Angie.
Then we have to send all of them.
Yeah, they have to kill, they have to martyr themselves to, you know, do all that. So, you see, again, to repeat my kind of essential message, I wish I had more time to dwell with that for India to come out of this dependence, which we have not gotten independence. just a name. We fought for it. 90% of the people who fought for India's independence, 50 long struggle, all Hindus. Muslims are cooperating with the British. There's a secret correspondence which has come out now between Churchill and Jinnah. Churchill was instigating Jinnah to demand Pakistan so that this independence will fall apart. There's a correspondence just come out right now, a secret correspondence of that. Muslims are aligning with the British. It's only Hindus who are fighting for independence. But unfortunately, we got independent, we lost it. We lost it to Nehru. I'm wearing a Nehru jacket. I don't know why. We lost, and all these points that Amrit Nehru has indicated and Arjun ji have indicated, there is absolutely no doubt about that. Hindus are second-class citizens. It won't be easy to bring it about. It won't be easy to bring it about. But I really believe that God is also on our side. I somehow, you can't verify that because I believe in Shri Aurobindo. I go to Pondicherry. Every trip I take to India, I go to Pondicherry. I'm a devotee of Shri Aurobindo. He says India of the ages is not dead, it's not past. India still has something to do for the rest of the world. India will survive. So it's a blind faith I have in my heart that Hinduism will still survive. Because maybe maybe these Islam and West will fight with each other. They
are fighting.
China, the West, and Islam, these three will fight with each other, and India will be standing tall. So maybe there's a God's plan, maybe God's hand going on there. So these are the few of the words that I have to indicate, and I'll be happy to answer the questions. I have a lot more, but a whole lot of the stuff has been covered. The state of secularism in India, Dr. Nehru and Arjun Sampath has covered that all very well, so I really don't need to go into that. I appreciate, this is a flash of civilization, which I talked about, there's a slide about that. Western Islam, Slavic, Russian, Chinese, Hindu, Japanese. And include with the words of Shri Aurobindo, our actual enemies is not any force exterior to us, exterior to ourselves, but our own crime, weakness, our own cowardice, our own selfishness, our own hypocrisy, our own confidence. Jai Hind!
Jai Hind!